I mentioned the Bardock special in part 2, which brings me to a long-awaited topic. Well, I could have talked about it in my video for the Bardock special, but I purposely didn't then because that video was already packed. So now I've spent nearly 3 years wondering when I could possibly bring it up again. But since it's technically an episode of the Frieza arc, that makes it relevant. So in that video, I mentioned I hate the title of the Bardock special, a final solitary battle, the father of Z-Warrior Son Goku, who challenged Frieza, because it introduces the term Z-Warrior into the animated canon. I'm not sure if it existed in any capacity prior to that, but this is definitely the first time it shows up within the series itself. I absolutely, positively hate that term as a descriptor for the Dragon Ball characters. Now it's time to talk about why, because having left it like I did then, you may not be surprised that I've been asked about it a lot. As so many times before, I know that I'm in the minority about this, and that for reasons I simply cannot fathom, a lot of people seem to hold this term in high esteem. But there are many layers to my hate. The first is purely subjective, a gut reaction. I think it sounds stupid. This isn't like Sailor Senshi. Zetto Senshi doesn't tell us anything about these characters. But that brings me to my bigger problem. What does the Z in Z-Warrior signify? Oh, it's the Z in Dragon Ball Z, obviously. Yeah, it's the Z that has no meaning other than to incorrectly identify that the series was close to ending. That's a lovely name for this group of characters. But that very much limits its utility. Are these guys retroactively called Z-Warriors? It's mostly the same guys doing the same things. Do they stop being Z-Warriors here? Or here? Do we call them something else instead? Now that Dragon Ball Kai has re-edited the same material, are they the Kai Warriors in this section of the story? Look at that. It's a name that's only occasionally relevant even within its own property. That'd be like calling the Ghostbusters the Vigo Fighters, or Frodo, Sam, Aragorn, and the others the Return of the King Gang, or the Corleone family the Part 2 Father. Of course, that brings me to the original manga continuity, for which the term is absolutely irrelevant, because there is never a Z in the title, giving the term even less utility. You could not come up with any more of a non sequitur than calling these guys Z-Warriors. You might as well call them the Dishwasher Pantyhose Jungle Gym Fighters, and it would make just as much sense. The only time the letter Z exists in any substantial capacity in the Dragon Ball manga is in regards to this sword. That means the only character in Toriyama's Dragon Ball who would have any justification to be called by such a name is this guy. That's right, Gohan is the only Z-Warrior. Oops, he broke it, guess we can't call him that anymore. But what do we call them? We have to call them something. Well, no, we don't. Not every ragtag group of characters has to have a specific name. That's silly. They're not the flippin' Justice League, or even a bowling league. They're a bunch of martial artists who hang out together and punch things. But if you really feel they need one, Toriyama already gave them one years before this stupid descriptor became a thing. He called them the Dragon Team. In my opinion, that's a much better name. It doesn't sound like some 90s extreme sports dirt bike team. It ties into the Dragon Balls, which serve as pivotal items for the entire franchise, both in and out of universe. It's more inclusive to the characters who inhabit that world and friend group, as opposed to just the ones who punch things. And while I questioned Dragon Ball Kai, that's exactly what it uses too. Because it makes sense! Whew. It felt good to get all of that off my chest. I don't care if you think I'm crazy, it needed to be said. Z-Warriors is a stupid, nonsensical term. We really didn't need any more pointless overemphasizing of Z in Dragon Ball. The fact that the Bardock special officially introduced it is the one blemish on its otherwise gleaming legacy.